Hi everybody, this is Diane, and I have finished my design team project journals for Artzology using her Aubrey Ann digital. I will link her shop below. The Aubrey Ann journal kit is a floral kit and it's just beautiful. So I am just going to go through these two journals and show them to you. Do you remember, if you saw some of the process videos, the two plain red covers that I showed you that I was going to use? Well, believe it or not, that's what these are. These are those plain red covers. I used the same paints on both of them, but they look so different. Look how different the colors turned out. So what happened was I wanted to just put on some gesso and let some of the red show through a little bit, and then do a little like stamping on it, and then add some collage to it. Well, when I put the gesso on, the dye from the red covers tinted the gesso pink, and I mean pink. That's not what I wanted. So after the gesso dried, I added some white paint, which also turned pink. I guess it just went right through. And so after that dried, I added some eggshell colored paint, and it's just acrylic, just the little bottles that you get in the craft stores. So with the gesso, the white paint, and the eggshell paint, these are the colors I ended up with. So this one has a pinky peach tone, and it's quite pretty. And then this one has a peach tone, but it's more toned down. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It didn't turn out the way I thought it would, but I really, really like these. So on each of them, after I put the paint and things on it, once I had the color, once I was satisfied with the color I had, I put some Mod Podge over it. Well, first I stamped. You see I have a script stamp that I just kind of stamped randomly on there. And then I put Mod Podge on it just to coat it, so it didn't have that rough paint feel that I don't like. So you can see the stamping there. And then for each one, I used a vintage doily piece that had a piece of linen in the center. Let's start with this one. So this one was square. And you can see how old it is. It's stained, but it is gorgeous. And the edges are frayed. I don't know what it came off from. I think somebody must have sent this to me because I don't remember buying this piece. But I cut this image out of this book, Plant Families, A Guide for Gardeners and Botanists. And I measured the square that was in there, and I cut a piece of cardstock and then this little piece to fit inside there. And then I had this little square of a vintage linen. You can see the rough weave of that. And I glued this little cameo disc piece on there. I used this fabric on the spine and some gimp braid, and then at the back I just left the color, but I don't know how to describe it. It's not all one flat color. There's variations in the shades. So I think it turned out pretty. And then this one has an oval doily. And I used my Cricut, or not my Cricut, my Big Shot with my dies. And I made sure I had the right size die. And then I cut out one that's scalloped in pink. And then this was cut from the same book. And I stitched them together and then glued it onto the doily. And then there's a little vintage crochet piece here and a vintage button that I cut the shank off. So pretty. There's a piece of ribbon here. I just used a plain piece of cream colored fabric, and then I just put some lace on the spine. So we're going to go through this one first. They're very similar. The pockets on the inside covers are different, but pretty much the pages are the same. So this is the end paper from this book, a Victorian flower album, and I used some pages out of this book to create pages in the journals. But I just took the fly leaf and made this pocket, and I also created the back pocket with a page, with that page. And there's a piece of vintage lace here, very soft lace. So the digital pages and tags and all of the digitals are from Artzology's Aubrey Ann kit. Isn't that pretty? And then I put eyelet or crocheted trim there. I used her backing pages to print on the backs of the pages. And this is an avocado dyed paper that I got from an Etsy seller. And then I stenciled on it. I did a video showing decorating the pages with layers. So there's stenciling. Some of the pages have stamping, and napkin and doily Mod Podged. Different kinds of layers I did on the pages. So there's one of them. This is one of the pages from the kit. She has tabs in the kit. And circles, 2.5-inch circles, and I backed it onto a lavender cardstock and trimmed it and glued it on as a tuck spot, and there you can see the stenciling on that page. And in there I just put in this little tag that I cut with my Cricut and one of the tickets that came with the kit. This one had a little bit of a tear in the paper, and although I Mod Podged over where the tear was, and so it stuck the tear together, I still did a collage here with some vintage pieces. Because this book is all about layers. So I did lots of layers, layering of stencils and stamps and layering of fabrics and papers, and in the pockets I layered different types and sizes of tags. This has some script stamping on it, and then a napkin Mod Podged to the page. I love the way that turned out. This is a vintage stationery page with an orchid on it. Copy dyed note paper. This is one of Artie Mays' pages. And there's one of the backing pages. This is from that Victorian flower album book. And here we have just a lot of layered stamping and stenciling. I created a pocket with a leftover, with a cut-off piece of the scrapbook paper, and then layered a piece of vintage crochet, and I think it's tatting, and one of Artzology's tickets. This is just a scrap of paper that I tucked in there for journaling, and then one of the tags that come with the kit. I have a fabric flip in each signature. And then she has some file folders. So I printed the file folders as they were, so it came out quite large, fits the book. And then I printed them to a page. So I'll have some of the smaller ones in here too. So I just put that in the center of each signature, and I stenciled with 2 colors of ink and 2 stencils. And then I put some flowers on the on the ends of the threads. Copy dyed paper with some lace on it. There's some stamping and stenciling on this page. This is the other side of that vintage stationery. And here's the other side that had the napkin and the script on it. Here's another little piece of napkin. She has some pennants or banners in her kit in 2 sizes. So I put 2 together with a little piece of, this is just some sheer ribbon with some velvet trim. There's some more stenciling and a little bit of paper doily there. And then here I took one of the smaller file folders and cut it in half and sewed it on as a tuck spot, and then layered some vintage lace fabric and another piece of lace there. Now each of the kits has something really special in each signature, and that is a French vintage flower seed label. So I just sewed one to a coffee dyed index card and added a little bit of lace or something to each card, and there is one in every signature. So you get 3 of the French vintage flower seed labels in each journal. And then she has some round top tags in the kit. So that's one signature. The rest of the signatures follow the same pattern. There's some stamping there. I used a tab here. And a little collage there. And some napkin. This is a piece of stationery that I got at a flea market and a bunch of other stationery. Flea market or yard sale, but it looks like, I'm sure it is, hand painted or stenciled because I can feel the paint. This is a page from the kit. And from that flower book, there's a collage on this pocket with some vintage laces and the ticket. A scrap of paper. I took one of the tabs that was printed onto paper by mistake and I just folded it over that as a decoration. And there's a tag in there that I inked on the back. There's some collage on this page. A fabric flip. And then the center. A collage on this page, and that is with stamping. Some napkin and stenciling on that page. And there's the banners with a piece of vintage lace and ribbon. The half of a file folder with collage here, and here is the seed packet. And the tag from the kit. Third signature. There's a stamp here with a tab. Little collage up there, piece of fabric and a little bit of vintage padding. This one has stenciling and stamping and napkin on it. And this is a vintage stationery with embossed iris. So pretty. And it has a little bit of a sheen on that iris. There's stenciling and Mod Podge napkin and doily here. This was a piece of bias tape that had some zigzag stitching on it. I think I got this piece in a bunch of stuff at a flea market. I thought it was cute, so I just added it there. That's the French flowers packet label. And then on the back, I created a pocket with that fly leaf paper and then added some crochet trim, my signature. And then I tucked this little booklet that I had made, matchbook style booklet that I had made in a Stashistry or Scrapistry, I think it was Stashistry video, because I have a stash of these. So this is the only digital image that's not from Artzology. Oh no, that is from Artzology. It was another of my design team projects for her. Okay, so for the seam binding on this one, I cut it extra long and left it in one length, but I put the loop close to the edge here and just thread one of the ends through it and then tie it. If that's too complicated, you can cut it and just have two tied together. So there is this one. I'm not sure what to call these. I'll call this clematis because that's the name of this flower. I think this is mallow, but I cut, oh, maybe it's an alpine poppy. I'm going to call this one Poppy. Now this one has a wide vintage seam binding. I love this. I am going to wet it and crinkle it up because it's got the crease in it where it was wrapped around the card. But I love this. It looks old and it's just wide. I wish I could find more of it. So that's what I tied around that one. And the pocket on this one is different. This is one of the Tim Holtz wallpaper design pieces, but it's on cardstock. Oh, I was going to tell you on these, this is something else I did with the tags that I printed on paper instead of cardstock. I just cut images off the tags and then glued them onto these tags because they're paper. I could have sewn the paper tags to something to make them sturdy or glued them to something, but instead I just cut them and I did some stenciling on these tags and then glued some of the images that I cut off of the paper tags. This is cut from a little field guide, and then I added some decorative or some handmade paper back there. So I'm just going to go through this because it's pretty much the same inside. Basically the main difference in these books is the pockets on the front and the back. And the flips, the fabric flips are different. Here's the vintage stationery, and this one has this little rose on it, and it's kind of a parchment paper. Can we see the vintage stationery in this one? Oh, it's the orchid one. It's in the other book too. I love this piece of fabric. I don't have much of that. I just love it with the black and the pink together. And this one I glued one of the paper tabs to the top of this and folded it. And then this one has the purple embossed iris too. This one I took one of the paper banners and just glued it onto this cut-off piece for decoration. And then I also put some of the paper tickets on pockets. And then on the back I used a vintage library pocket, and I took one of the paper tags and just glued it to the back. Glued a scrap of paper there and put in a colored library card and a little tag. So this one I'm going to call Alpine Poppy. I'm not sure, but because of that right there, looks like a poppy. And I used to have Alpine poppies. They're little, but anyway, I'm not sure what this is. But I'm gonna call this one Poppy. Okay, just Poppy. And this one will be Clematis, because it says right there that it's a clematis. All right, so these are going to be in my shop when this video goes up. So I will link my shop below. Thank you so much for watching, and I don't know what my next project will be, but I'm sure it'll be a fun one. Bye-bye.